chose est condamné à mort tôt ou tard. Monsieur Jack Lang, qui prétendait être candidat à la présidence de la République, que l'on m'arrête à la sortie, si ce que je dis n'est pas vrai, a été compromis dans l'affaire des lieux de vie et dans un lieu de vie tenu par des socialistes qui s'appelait le Choral. Et là, des gamins étaient prostitués à des gens comme Jack Lang, et un gosse a été trouvé mort, sodomisé, la tête dans un seau de merde, que l'on m'arrête à la sortie si ça n'est pas vrai. Alors je veux bien que demain, on se batte dans une armée pour défendre l'Europe. Je veux bien demain tout ce qu'on veut. Je veux bien, même devant vous à 70 berges, être devant, donner l'exemple et tomber. Mais l'Europe, je m'en tape tant que mon pays est pourri. Et ce que je veux sauver dans un premier lieu, c'est mon pays, c'est ma patrie. Et je veux que tous les Jack Lang de France et d'ailleurs soient pendus haut et court et aient des comptes à rendre. Et c'est uniquement par notre tenue, par notre allant, par notre morale, par notre certitude dans la victoire que nous exigerons que ces gens-là payent parce qu'ils doivent payer.
Certain organizations, networks, rings, that act as the cement that holds the web together and holds people within the web together. Close to the spider people are the Rothschilds, and when I talk about the Rothschilds, one thing, I'm not talking about all people called Rothschild. The vast majority of people called Rothschild won't have a clue what other Rothschilds in that dynasty are doing. And secondly, I don't even mean only people called Rothschild. I mean the Rothschild bloodline, which has infiltrated many other enormous numbers of other families and groups, which then come to power under other names other than Rothschild. Because if the president's Rothschild, the bloody guy here is Rothschild, the bloody newsreader's Rothschild, what's going on? Instead of that, you have people under different names. So I'm talking about the Rothschild bloodline and the scions of that family, the people that run that family. Not everyone called Rothschilds. A lot of people in that family called Rothschild who don't have a clue what's going on. But they, through these various cements, control all these different and various apparently unconnected organizations. Now, one of the cements, of course, is the secret society network. That's pretty obvious when you look at it. And these are some of the major ones, but there are even more exclusive ones as well that operate in tiny, tiny cabals. But it's not just the secret society networks. They connect into the satanic networks, where they literally carry out human sacrifice and such horrors, which these bloodlines have been doing all the way through. Now, no one has a problem with the fact that them primitive ancients used to sacrifice people and torture people and all that stuff, but that was at one time kind of acceptable because it was the way they did things. As it's become unacceptable, it's still gone on, same bloodlines involved, but it goes on secretly, obviously. And this is the paedophile rings, the sexual child abuse rings, which connect into that and connect into that. That's not saying everyone in a secret society is a paedophile. It's not saying every Satanist is a paedophile. It's not saying every paedophile is a Satanist from every secret society. But there are rings, connections between these organizations and groups that hold them together. It's a bit like the Olympic rings. They connect into each other.
Dans notre pays, Monsieur Frédéric Mitterrand, le ministre de la Culture, a écrit en 2005 un livre qui s'appelle « La mauvaise vie », dans lequel il décrit par le menu la manière dont il effectue du tourisme sexuel et le plaisir qu'il a à aller payer des petits garçons thaïlandais, tout en sachant les conditions dans lesquelles ils vivent, tout en sachant la perversité de ce système, l'ignominie qui est fait à ces jeunes garçons. Il l'écrit noir sur blanc, et cet homme-là est ministre de la Culture. Mais je veux dire, qu'est-ce qu'on va dire aux délinquants sexuels quand M. Frédéric Mitterrand est encore ministre de la Culture et ainsi pose une tâche indélébile sur l'ensemble du gouvernement? On lui dit quoi? Il dira, oh bah écoutez, Frédéric Mitterrand, il a expliqué comment, etc. C'était extraordinaire, il trouvait ça extrêmement sympathique et il ne pouvait pas s'en empêcher. Voilà. Et c'est dans un pays tel que celui-là que nous voulons donner des leçons aux délinquants et que nous voulons servir des exemples. Eh bien, commençons par démissionner, Monsieur Mitterrand, et peut-être qu'après, on pourra donner des leçons. Je veux dire, ce qu'on dit en Bretagne, le poisson pourrit toujours par la tête. Voilà.
Alors, je précise que j'ai lu ce livre et que le compte-rendu que vous en faites est au minimum, on va dire, rapide. Mais...
Vous voulez que je le lise?
Non.
Non, je vais vous en lire un extrait, monsieur Kelly.
Si vous voulez lire un extrait. Mais...
J'ai pris le pli de payer pour des garçons. Évidemment, j'ai lu ce qu'on a écrit sur le commerce des garçons d'ici. Je sais ce qu'il y a de vrai, la misère ambiante, le macrotage généralisé, les montagnes de dollars que ça rapporte quand les gosses n'en retire que des miettes, la drogue qui fait des ravages, etc. Tous ces rituels de foire aux éphèbes, de marché aux esclaves m'excitent énormément. On ne pourrait juger qu'un tel spectacle abominable d'un point de vue moral, mais il me plaît au-delà du raisonnable. La profusion de jeunes garçons très attrayants et immédiatement disponibles me met dans un état de désir que je n'ai plus besoin de réfréner ou d'occulter. Qu'est-ce qu'il vous faut de plus?
Là, il parle de fantasme, mais je ne veux pas rentrer dans ce débat.
Vous plaisantez?
Non, mais... Vous permettez?
L'argent et le sexe, je suis au cœur de mon système, celui qui fonctionne.
Marine
enfin,
Le Pen.
excusez-moi, car je sais qu'on ne me refusera pas.
Très bien.
Alors, vous dites qu'il est... Non, il n'est pas dans le fantasme.
He was investigating him for financial fraud through an organisation called the Franklin Savings and Loans. But then he discovered that he's running a paedophile ring and providing children for the biggest names in America. And he wrote this book, The Franklin Cover-Up, Child Abuse, Satanism, again, they go together all the time, and murder in Nebraska. And what happened? Some of it got into this Washington Times, a mainstream newspaper, the connection to the Reagan-Bush administration, but most of it was totally covered up. I've been writing in my books now since 1998 that Father George Bush is a notorious paedophile, child torturer, child killer, and serial killer of adults as well. Said it on American radio. Still waiting for a response. And this is one example. A lady who became a friend of mine, Kathy O'Brien, who was in the American government mind control project since she was a kid. And met her many times. She still corresponds with me now and again. And I've met a daughter that she was talking about. Lovely, lovely girl. Totally shattered by these people. And that's one example of millions and millions that are going on around the world. And this is what she said in a book, Transformation of America. Kelly's bleeding rectum was but one of many physical indicators of George Bush's paedophile perversions. I have overheard him speak blatantly of his sexual abuse of her on many occasions. He used this and threats to her life to pull my strings and control me. The psychological ramifications of being raped by a paedophile president are mind-shattering enough. But reportedly, Bush further reinforced the traumas to Kelly's mind with sophisticated NASA electronic and drug mind control devices. Bush also instilled the "who you're gonna call and I'll be watching you" binds on Kelly, further reinforcing her state of helplessness. The systematic tortures and trauma that I endured as a child now seem trite by comparison. They're not. I know what she went through. To the brutal physical and psychological devastation that George Bush inflicted on my daughter. And that's just one of these people involving one of the victims of this. It's incredible, the scale of it, and it's going on in this country. And what happens? The wall goes up. This is what DeCamp found. Suddenly ranks are pulled in, and the media won't touch it, the social services won't touch it, the police won't touch it, politicians won't touch it. It's the blueprint, it's how it works. I was naming this guy, like I said earlier, Ted Heath, as a paedophile and child murderer from 1998. This guy's record of killing children is extraordinary. Prime Minister of this country. This fella, Thomas Hamilton, the man who went into Dunblane Primary School and killed 16 children and a teacher, he was a procurer of children for the Scottish political elite, which locks into the Westminster political elite, and the satanic rings that lock into both. That's why they took the records of this case and ordered them to be locked away for 100 years. And then, if you've been following my website recently, and many other websites too, here you have the classic blueprint again. Everywhere you go, same blueprint. This girl, Holly Gregg, Down syndrome girl, her mother, Anne, and Robert Greene, a fantastic guy who's been helping them and committed so much of himself to this. When she started, Holly started saying what had happened to her, being raped and abused by the Scottish elite, suddenly the wall went up again. And Robert was arrested. He's been treated appallingly by the police, the Grampian police in Scotland. Grampian area of Scotland, by the way, notorious for Satanism. And he's now basically been told what he can't say, and he can't name people and all the rest of it, and he's, the case is ongoing. The media won't touch it, though maybe that might be changing, we hope. The Scottish law network or establishment will not investigate it. The police won't investigate it properly. Anne's brother, Holly's uncle, was blatantly murdered when he had seen Holly's father abusing her, and therefore had the ability to tell the truth and tell the story. He ended up murdered. And a cover story of suicide. When you see the story, suicide, are you kidding, was put together by the Grampian police. And Robert Greene is a man who, if there were more of his like in this world, then this world would be a very much better place. And Robert's actually here today, so thank you, Robert, very much for all you're doing.
Has for good reason also been called the other Loch Ness Monster. Crowley, who in his book Magic had admitted to sacrificing hundreds of children to Satan, was run out of Italy and called by the press of his day the wickedest man on earth. Crowley claimed that a demonic spirit he later identified as Satan himself dictated a book to him in 1904 called the Book of the Law. Under the heading The Law of Thelema, the Book of the Law declares, "This book lays down a simple code of conduct. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love's the law, love under will. There is no law beyond do what thou wilt."
You find this is why, as I researched this over these last 20 years, when I have researched through people in power like politicians and bankers and even some media people and stuff like that, you know, after this time of researching this and the recurring themes, that when you get far enough into it, you're going to come across a secret society, but you're almost certainly going to come across either or both Satanism and child abuse, sexual abuse, paedophilia. And there's a reason why the ratio of such people is massive in the upper echelons of this control structure than it is in the general population. There's a blueprint which you find in every community and every country. It's a blueprint of how this works and how the Satanists and the paedophiles and the secret society people end up in positions of power and influence to direct this conspiracy. So the paedophilia and the secret societies and the Satanists operating in these interconnecting rings then infiltrate their people right across the web, which holds the whole thing together. Now, Satanism is staggeringly common compared with the public perception of it. And there's a number of reasons for it. First of all, they're sacrificing people literally to the gods, the serpent gods. When you see these ancient accounts all over the world of how they used to sacrifice people, young virgins often, and what does young virgins code for? Children, to the gods, because they put them through the sacrifice ritual and they build up the terror. What happens is the terror reaches a point where a certain adrenaline pours into the blood, and the people doing the ritual then drink that blood and they get a real high from that adrenaline. But as the sacrifice is going on, the victim is also releasing energy, very powerful, low vibrational energy, and the entities, or entity, whatever it is, just outside of visible light is feeding off that energy. They're feeding off us like vampires in so many ways, and that's one of them, and one of the reasons for these sacrifices of people to the gods. The other thing is that and I've talked to Satanists who've seen this happen, or former Satanists around the world, they create an energetic environment which is almost a stepping stone, like halfway house, which allows these entities to come in to the ritual. I've talked to people who've seen these entities manifest in the rituals because of the way they have created the energetic environment.